declare the meeting open and invite Steve to lead us in a karakia, please.
Thank you, Grant. Karakia tātou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E he aki ana ti atakura, he tio, he huka, he hohu, ti hei Māori ora.
Thank you. Do we have any apologies? I got one from Graham McGlynn. Thank you. Can we have a mover and seconder to receive those? Thank you. Thank you, Christine. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Declaration of interests. Are there any updates for members' interests? No. So we'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes for the open and PX session of the meeting on the Thursday, the 21st of March. Are there any amendments? I think they've been pre-circulated. Do we have a mover and seconder for those? Councillor McKenzie. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. You just want to stand. I will do that. Thank you. And Stephen, welcome. Thank you very much for attending. We've got Yvonne here, despite the travel difficulties with flying. So that moves us on to reports. And the first one is an update on the annual report process.
Yeah, so in the report is underway and tracking well. We've had the interim audit, which went well, and Yvonne will give an update on that in a minute. So now we're gathering the financial and non-financial information and following up on some other audit queries for some system notes for some of the new measures. Since the report was written, the IT audit is now underway, and that's also tracking well. And then other than that, happy to take questions.
Right. Do you want some questions now, or should we move on to Yvonne's presentation?
Okay, we can do that.
Hello, everyone. Okay. Thank you. Bring up my presentation. Oh, yeah. Is that one? Right. So I will take, so there are a few reports attached to this agenda item. I will take all these reports read and just go through my presentation. Firstly, I will do a wee bit of introduction of myself as I'm new here. The first time I attend this Audit Risk Committee meeting, and then we'll go through my presentation. I also have my our Chief Executive on the line, Steve Walker, so I will let him to speak a few words to the committee as well. So a wee bit of introduction of myself. I joined Audit New Zealand Christchurch office in August 2021. My name is Yvonne Yang, sorry. And my portfolio has things focused on local government, including a number of councils in Waimakariri District Council, Environment Canterbury Regional Council, and Chatham Island Council. I was also the the second director of Christchurch City Council a couple of years ago, and including other relevant CCOs. I also co-chair Audit New Zealand Tertiary Knowledge Group. Prior to Audit New Zealand in 2021, I was with Deloitte in various offices in Shanghai, London, and Christchurch. It is my pleasure to be appointed as appointed auditor for Tasman District Council, and then look forward to working with all of you here. So my presentation here will present three main items. One is the summary of the audit plan for 2024 annual audit. The second one is the status update of the audit so far. Then this last item is in relation to the key accounting technical issues and the review of the risk management framework. Firstly, the summary of the audit plan for 2024 annual audit. This year's key areas of focus area and sector focus areas are consistent with the prior year. However, we identified a few new material performance measures as they are important for either decision making or assessing accountability to the community. We also ensure that we take a consistent approach to the selection of material performance measure for the councils that are entirely similar. So you found the screen, there are a few items in red that highlight the new material performance measures that we consider as material to our audit, including road renewal of assets, rivers in relation to the flood protection assets, public transport in relation to the passenger numbers, and the last one is environment management. Two areas that we will focus on. One is resource consent monitoring, and the other is the water swimmable performance measure. And then we move on to the sort of overview of the 2024 annual audit so far. We have completed around 25% of what we wish to do as a whole audit. We have been focused on in relation to any sort of variation approach and key accounting technical issues in agreement with the management. So subject to the indices movement up to June 2024, we concur with management's position not to value land, buildings, roading, bridge or port. But management decide to have full variation on three waters, refuse and coastal assets. And all these revaluation will be performed by the external expert. We have not identified any significant control deficiency so far. However, as Bridie just said, our general information technology controls assessment has just started this week. We have not identified any material issues through our completeness testing over the data transfer from Magic to Affinity. Just to clarify, Affinity is the outsourced HR functions that the system move on to that, and we have done a complete testing in terms of the opening data migration. So there are still a few areas of control assessments underway at the moment, so we will report any new recommendations and the status of prior year recommendation in our final report to the council. The key accounting technical issue, there's sort of four areas that we have assessed during the interim audit. One of them in relation to infrastructure asset held at cost, and two of them related to investment in infrastructure holding limited, which is the new holding company that held the port and airport share. And in light of that, the council will be indirectly holding 50% of port and airport share. And we have considered the accounting treatment in relation to that transaction. The last one is relation to the accounting for Waimea Water Limited debt, mainly related to the point in time of the depreciation start for the Waimea Water Dam, and also the shares of Waimea Water's revenue post practical completion. I appreciate all these quite technical, so I wouldn't go down to quite details here, but in a nutshell, management and us are on the same page and in a mutual agreement on all these key accounting issues. We have also performed a review of Council's updated risk management framework against good practice. We also consider whether the framework has been embedded with Council risk management practice. We recommend that the Council continues to invest in the ongoing development of its people at all levels in risk management. We also encourage the Council create a roadmap that outlines practical and pragmatic steps to enhance risk management maturity and embed the framework. The other recommendation is in relation to a risk register to be developed, which should improve the risk management. We have discussed these recommendations with relevant management, and we're on the same page, and some actions has already been taken since then. So lastly, I think I want to say it has been very busy 6 months with Audit New Zealand and the management. I'm not directly involved in the long-term plan audit, but we, on behalf of long-term plan team and our audit, also our annual audit interim team, we really appreciate the professionalism and the assistance from the management. Steve, would you like to say anything before I open the question?
No, I'm happy to cover off questions in relation to your presentation, and then maybe I'll add a few words after, if that's all right, Chair.
Absolutely. So does the committee have any questions on Yvonne's presentation to you today? Yep. You go first. Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. So everyone, thank you for the presentation. Just in relation to the audit plan for the year ending 30th of June 2024 slide, there's a number of new material performance measures that you're going to look at. Particularly interested in two of those and how you do that and how wide that's going to be. Environment management, resource consent monitoring, and water swimmable. I'm taking that's just monitoring the resource consents around water takes, that type of thing, rather than the whole broad resource consented process.
Yes. So the specific word in relation to that is the performance measure we're picking is around an annual report is prepared and presented to the council, showing that all resource consents that are monitored are assigned appropriate performance grades. So that's the particular one that we are going to assess the appropriateness of the disclosure and the accuracy of the results that to be presented in the annual report. In terms of the swimming, the water swimmable is the performance measure specify the swimming beaches and the rivers are suitable for context, recreation, and there are two measures. We will pick one of them, the relation to fine weather samples and all weather samples. And we will be assessing the accuracy and appropriateness of the results that presented in the annual report.
Thank you. And if I may, Mr. Chair, just the second one is in relation to rivers flood protection. I think it may be somewhere else in the report as well. Just around, I'm taking that to an assessment of stock banks, is it?
Yes, yes.
Councillor McKenzie. Oh, hang on.
Thank you very much. If I may, through the chair, just to two matters, not so much in relation to the substance of Yvonne's report. But because we're in public forum, and I know that the council has acknowledged you privately, Graham, over lunch, you know, just for the record, on behalf of this committee, I would like to acknowledge your term here, working with the Tasman District Council, having been firstly on the subcommittee and then taking over the chair of Audit and Risk back in 2021. So want to acknowledge your input to this council and reflecting on what everybody has said. It's been very much a great relationship and you've added huge value. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie.
Look, through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to raise a point which I think is canvassed quite well in the report, and that's the gnarly issue of audit fees. And look, you know, based on the way that I've looked at the information, 2023 cost us 237,000. 2024, it's going to be 273,000. 2025, we've had an indication of 331,000. Now, over those 3 years, that represents nearly a 40% increase in fees. And I've read in the report how, you know, maybe we weren't recovering costs and it's broken down and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, that is an astronomical amount of money. And, you know, I can, you know, as a chartered accountant myself, I totally understand it in terms of the audit effort required around the financial statements. But I think I've got a big question whether we are taking a sensible risk-based approach to the audit of the performance, of the non-financial performance of the council. And so I guess I would be interested in any response about how we could take more of a risk-based approach, as of course we hear that Waka Kotahi are going to be taking around traffic management and placement of road cones. How can we actually do something similar for our audit work? Because, you know, our rates increases here in Tasman, we're looking at, you know, 11.1% and then 7%. How is that comparable to this eye-watering increase in audit fees? So, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to make it a lot more visible, actually, what this costs, what we get for it, and whether it's appropriate.
Do you want Yvonne to respond to that?
Certainly, I don't want a response really around justifying, well, we spend this number of hours and this is the cost of labour and there's been a shortage of staff and all the rest of it. I would like a response maybe, and I'm very sorry to put you on the spot here, Yvonne, but, you know, it's in the report. How can we take a more sensible risk-based approach to our audit work around our non-financial performance?
Yes, I'm happy to answer their questions. I think the short answer is we are taking a risk-based approach, and that is our audit methodology. In terms of non-financial information, I guess you're referring to the material performance measures that we select here. We do have a methodology and we have our technical specialist support in terms of guiding us to the selection of the performance measures. And the driver of that is whether these are important for council's decision making and assessing accountability to community. And also we taking consistent approach to the selection for the council that inherently similar. All these performance measures we consider are very important to the council in various kind of reasons, and then that actually fit into the decision making. And everything in response to the audit fee, Steve might help me on that. But we have taken a considerable amount of discounts to Tasman District Council, if you can save on the fees. And there's a catch-up phase after COVID that increasing amount of the staff costs and also increasing level of the audit quality required to us that reflected in the fee. I might just hand over to Steve, just give committee a response as well.
Sure, thank you. Just confirming you can hear me in the room?
Yes.
We can. Look, thank you, and thanks for the question. I mean, Yvonne's answer's spot on. We do perform a risk-based approach, and perhaps just specifically in relation to non-financial reporting and the work that we do. For the vast majority of public sector entities, whether they're central government or local government, tertiaries, etc., what's most important to New Zealanders and key stakeholders of particular entities is actually what is done with the resources that they've been entrusted with. And that's very much around the delivery of services in the local government environment. There are certain obligations we have. We audit obviously according to a standards framework, etc. But we apply a level of judgment as to where the risks sit within that non-financial performance report. We do not audit all elements of the non-financial performance report. I don't know the exact number of performance measures that Tasman District Council has. What we've identified are those areas where we believe there is a level of risk, a level of interest within the community, and a significant level of resource applied to those. Just by way of example, there are also some in here, particularly in the water space, where these are mandatory reporting measures as determined by DIA. And in effect, we view that as a requirement then that we provide a level of assurance in relation to those. The ones that Yvonne's identified as additional measures really reflect the breadth of the role of Tasman District Council as a unitary authority, and particularly in the flood protection environmental space. These are absolutely vital areas of performance for the council and every local authority around the country at the moment. So we do take a risk-based approach, but from our perspective, the non-financial performance reporting is as important as the financial reporting within your annual report. So that's why we are giving it a level of prominence. Just a question more broadly around level of fees and fee increases. In fairness, we are playing some catch up. For many years, we are a cost recovery organisation. We're the in-house audit provider for the Auditor General. We do not, we're not mandated to make a profit, if you like, or provide a dividend through to Parliament. We are a cost recovery business. And in fairness, we have not been fully recovering costs off audit fees in the local government sector, which is why 2 years ago, the Auditor General made a commitment to say we need to rectify that. Clearly, we need to have good levels of engagement with the sector, be open and transparent around what the costs are and where they currently lie. And so the last 2 years, we've been transitioning to a full cost recovery model. It's fair to say we see the same happening in the local government sector as well, where most, if not all, local authorities are also having to play a level of catch up in terms of levels of investment in other areas. And so as local authorities are doing that, it increases a level of risk within the audit environment as well. And so that's certainly increased the scope and focus of our audits. We've obviously had some engagement with both through the two independents on the committee, with Mayor Tim, with Leonie as Chief Executive and her team more recently, around how we transition to a full cost recovery model with the audit fee for Tasman. We've obviously reached that agreement around the 2024 fee, but a full acknowledgement at the end of this audit round, that we will have a bit of an open book exercise, so that we can fully understand, what those costs are, where they lie, and where there are opportunities for the council itself to perhaps do some things differently as well. So look, it's not providing a specific answer to why the significant fee increases, other than to say, we are playing some catch up. We are trying to be reasonable in how we phase those increases in. But, we are very much taking a risk-based approach to the audit, and, obviously auditing within a fairly tight framework of reporting and auditing standards as well.
If I may, Chair, just ask one supplementary question. Of course, the beauty of being an elected member is that, we can sit around here and ask any questions we like, whether they might be uncomfortable or not. So I do apologise, for my questions, but
no
I'm
problem.
asking on behalf of our ratepayers, who actually are the ones ultimately that are paying your bill. So I guess my question then is, what information could you supply me with which would give me confidence that Audit New Zealand delivers value for money as opposed to other audit providers?
Look, we've provided a level of information to probably some around the table already, and we could more than happy for perhaps Yvonne to sit down with yourself to provide some of that information. You raise a good point though, and it's one I failed to touch on a moment ago. The real value in what we do is to be there to provide a degree of independent assurance to your community, right? It's not, the immediate benefit and value isn't to necessarily management within the district council. We are very much doing it with your community in mind, just as we are for central government agencies that we audit. It's often with Parliament and the public in mind more generally. So that's our primary audience for the audit. We've seen it come through the long-term planning round, and it's really just been highlighted the real value, and this is more generally across the sector, it's not specific to Tasman, just the value and the benefit of that independent assurance process to support councils to get their long-term plans right when they are putting them in place for their communities. And I think there's been some real value provided as part of that. Obviously for your communities around the annual audit, it's the reporting on the performance that's happened and closing that accountability loop. And we are providing them an independent lens to say that, the information in this report is reasonable, is reliable, unless our opinion says otherwise. So that's very much the value we are providing. We are charged with providing an audit, but very clear, and this applies to private audit providers as well. It cannot be a lead into providing other services. The audit itself is the value, and then how you are communicating and providing that value to communities. I acknowledge there's probably some efforts, some steps we can take to and lift that communication. certainly enhance the communication as Yvonne's been doing today, just with the committee, to make sure you are aware of the issues that we're grappling with in the audit as well. So look, the first answer was, happy to share some insights around, we did an open book exercise at the conclusion of last year's audit, what we considered to be the right effort and hours required to perform the audit. In a sense, the cost is determined on the basis of the hours required.
Thank you, Stephen. The committee, I'm quite confident that we've turned a page in the audit process this year with the appointment of Yvonne. Graham and I met with Stephen and Yvonne yesterday to have a run through on issues, and I think the key technical issues that Yvonne set out for the committee is a huge step forward from what we had before. We used to have the issues being identified very late in the audit process when it was very hard to then resolve them expeditiously, and I think that's going to be a big change in things going forward. And for example, I have confirmed with Yvonne that the ETS accounting issues that consumed a huge amount of time in the past is resolved going forward. So that's a massive reduction in the amount of time that will be required. Graham, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, firstly, apologies for lateness attending. Had a travel nightmare day with fog in Christchurch and then disruptions from then on in. Yeah, look, it's set out on the page care accounting technical issues. They have all been put out front. They have been addressed. And so I don't think there's stuff there that is going to come back to bite us. Just circling back, if I may, Chair, to Councillor Mackenzie's question, we've got to realise that we are told by the OAG, not Audit New Zealand, who our auditor is under legislation. There are other private sector providers, and Audit New Zealand providing us with an open book exercise doesn't address the overall issue as to whether Audit New Zealand is more efficient than the others, but Stephen and his team are not in a position to answer that. That's a matter that certainly I have raised with the OAG, to ask them the question, how do you know that any one service provider in the market is actually efficient when compared to the other service providers? And that's something that I've undertaken to start looking at and trying to find some benchmarking. But our auditor is Audit New Zealand. We're going to get visibility, and I've got full confidence in Yvonne and the team to come back at the end of the audit. We're seeing improvements already with what's happening, and I'm quite delighted with the progress that's been made compared to a year ago of where we were.
Are there any more questions? If there are not, can we have a mover and seconder for the resolution to receive the updates on the annual report 2023-24?
Happy to move.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. The next item is item 6.2. On the aerodrome assessment audits. Welcome.
Kia ora koutou. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Nicholas Chin. I'm the Manager of Property Enterprises, but I'm also the aerodrome operator for Council. I'll take the reports as read, but I'll just summarise briefly. Late last year, we had an independent aerodrome management or airport management company, Lockheed, look at both our aerodromes, and these are the reports that they've provided. Essentially, they found both in good health and repair. We've got very good communication with users. but they did make some recommendations. For example, replace our MOUs with conditions of use and more simplified ARP diagrams. So we're in the process of reviewing both management plans for Tākaka and Motueka, and which we expect to have finished in 2025. Any questions?
Any questions? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. Nick, just in relation to the number of recommendations that have been made, is a bit of a plan how to implement them, or we're just going to do that? Yeah, what's the word? No, I was like thinking I should say willy-nilly, but I'm sure that's not the. Yeah, in some sort of structured manner.
We have to communicate any changes with the users. For example, we're looking at the AIP plates at the moment. That's been the user groups and also the health and safety groups have got quite a bit of input into that. We also have to discuss changes with CAA. And so there is a process. The management plan will pick up a lot of improvements that these reports are indicating that we need to make to them. Tākaka was last reviewed back in 2019 and Motueka in 2021, so they're due a review now.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Thank you for the report. I guess my question goes on from what the Deputy Mayor said, is that when we're looking at the assessment reports that we've got here, there's clearly a big list of things that are there. What assurance does this committee have that all of the things that Lockheed Airport Management Report has are going to be implemented into the management plans? Is it given that if that's a recommendation that we follow through? Like, is this, what's the process? Sorry.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we document all of the recommendations and then we'll comment on them in terms of have we achieved them or is there a reason we haven't taken that recommendation. So we will go through that process to ensure that those recommendations are all considered or achieved. Yeah.
And through you, if I may, Chair, does that come back to this committee?
I think if we ask for it to, I think it can. If I can ask a question, in these reports, there isn't a sort of a overall score. Normally, and we get internal audit reports or something, we get a sort of an overall assessment on a scale of whatever the auditor uses. But there isn't. They haven't given us that. Is it possible to get that?
Sorry, are you talking about from the what's the name of the people? From Lockheed.
Yes, because I think that would be helpful. Context is everything when information comes to these committees, and I think if we can have one so we can review the progress or otherwise of these assessments over time. But when we don't get one, we don't have that context. Can you go back to them and just ask them to put an overall grading on both the aerodromes, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions? Graham McGlynn.
I see in 3.1 a recommendation for an aerodrome manager. I see quite a number of things to change. Are you appropriate resource? Do we have the budgets? Is there any risks to the implementation of this report that you can see at this juncture?
Under the current rules, we're not required to have an airport manager. We don't have enough flights, particularly at Tākaka. I think the threshold is about 30,000. An airport manager will lift the budget by about 100,000 plus per annum. We don't have that in our budget, but nor do we, arguably, nor is it required. The risk profile, according to Lockheed's, is relatively low. We don't have any ongoing issues. We utilise both aerodromes are audited every month. The CAA are quite happy with what we're doing as well. So at this stage, we don't think it's required.
Any more questions? Do I have a mover and seconder then for the resolution to receive the aerodrome assessment audits? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Butler and Deputy Mayor Bryant. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. We now move into confidential session and we need a mover and seconder to do that, please. Could I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Mackenzie and Graham McGlynn. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much.